patient I have Abby, with that tells me that she gets really, her head goes kind of funny with when she looks at screens, like the TV, or if she's on a laptop a long time.
Yeah.
She even mentioned that like she feels like putting her head, laid her head down when she watches a screen for a while. Have you ever come across anything?
Wait, she feels that her head drops down, or she feels like she needs to drop her head?
She needs to drop the chair. Her head gets really muzzy, kind of, and
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's quite common. That's relatively common. There are also options on computers to reduce the amount of blue light that gets emitted.
yeah,
But I don't know how much that helps. So yeah, you basically, yeah, it's not uncommon. It is a sensitivity that a lot of people have. In fact, because I can spend a fair amount of time on the computer at times,
mhm,
and I can feel that also. And the thing about the eyes is when the eyes get tired, the whole body gets tired, because the eyes are one of the organs of perception, and we don't have that many. I mean, really, you only in some ways you have your nose and your tongue, and of course you have your actual body, the sense, the skin, and then you have your ears and the eyes. So generally speaking, you're not tasting most of the time, and you're also not smelling most of the time. I mean, there are times obviously when smells come in, and like the sense of smell is there all the time, but the two senses that are constantly there are your eyes and your ears. And we, as they claim that maybe in other cultures it might have been different in other eras, but I don't think that's really true. I think our eyes are much more sensitive than our ears. So the one place where we're in contact with the world constantly, and in terms of stimulation, our brain gets stimulated very strongly by the eyes.
mhm.
So even though we're constantly feeling, for example, hot, cold, that's a body sensation. Our brain is not in tune with it all the time, and our brain is not even in tune with even though we're constantly, there's things that we're hearing, because it's never quiet, never 100% quiet. But the brain doesn't make much of an effort unless the brain perceives that it's directed at you. So as long as there's noises, say you're walking down the street or whatever, or even if you're walking down the jungle, until you hear you're basically not paying attention until you need to. But your eyes, I mean, you're walking down the street, you're constantly looking at the people around you, whatever is going on. And certainly if you're walking around the jungle, your eyes are very attuned. So I think what happens with eyes is it's a very strong perceptive situation. So when you're engaging them all the time, the brain-eye connection, the body gets the person can get very tired. It's like too much stimulation. And often they'll get it. So when you say she needs to put her head down, often they'll get pain in the back of the neck, especially the levator and stuff. So you basically treat the eyes, which means I would start with liver 9 or inner yin, and you can do UB1 and Yu Yao also, for example. The best treatment, if the person's capable, and by the way, eyes can treat a lot of pain issues. So one of the things that I do is I have a treatment, well, it's not mine, but it's from Kauai. You put a chain in the ear, okay? And you need a 3 bypass cord. You needle do 20. And you ask them which eye is worse. And you tape the chain in the ear, otherwise it falls off, right? So, and you put the green clip on the chain that's inside the ear. You literally fill the ear up, okay? And you put the green clip of the 3 bypass cord on the worse eye side, and the red clip on the better eye side. And then the black clip goes on, you spark do 20, and you put the black clip on. When you spark do 20, most people will tell you, oh my God, that felt like an earthquake. Okay. It's definitely, it's quite shocking. It feels like an earthquake inside the head, but it's a it's one of it's one of the eye treatments I like the best.
Mm.
It's really, the only thing is it's not super pleasant and it requires some equipment. In terms of the chains, if you happen to have a diode chain, I just use one diode chain and have one side on this ear, one side on that ear. Otherwise, you can just use a little chain, you know, that like that's meant for a wrist without diodes. That works just as fine as well. You
Yeah.
don't need you don't need the diodes. The chain doesn't have to be a diode chain for this treatment. You know,
Okay.
it might make it better, it might not. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll just show you briefly what I have. I think
Okay.
I don't know if it's too big, but it was hard to source. Actually, I couldn't get the diode chain.
Oh, you couldn't get the diode chain.
Couldn't get it. I think Andy's site was the only site that seemed to have it, and it was out of stock. Don't know if it's back in there or not, but I sourced a stainless steel chain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a little bit to me, I think that you want, there's too much space in there. There's not enough metal. So what you can do is, there are chains that are very, you know, I mean, just get a chain, you know, like not too thin, like a thicker kind of, you know. So this would be like this is basically a plumber's chain or something, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's from the hardware store, basically. I would go to a jewelry store and just get a real cheap, or sometimes actually some hardware stores will have metal chains, and
Yeah, no,
stainless steel is fine, but just sort of a tighter knit sort of thing,
okay.
because I don't think you can stuff this in the ear.
Well, not too much of it, at least.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, by the time you bend it, you know, you see, you're looking for something. Hold on one second. I'll show you. I'll show you the die chain I have. But hold on one second. I will take a while. Mr. Toro, let's go. Yes. Hold on. All right. So this is the diode chain. Can you see?
I can, yes.
Okay. This happens to be silver, and basically it's just a regular chain, and it happens to be silver, and it has diode soldered on it. Okay. Now this will probably look very similar. This is actually from Kauai. Okay. So and I'll do the comparison. Say the only you know, this is a little different because he preferred stainless steel. Okay, but so you can see that the knit, I don't know what the chains of the links or whatever these things are called in there are fairly small. You know, so for example, on the width of my thumb, 3 or 4 of these fit. Whereas in yours, one of those links is bigger than your thumb. So it just doesn't have a lot of flexibility. Plus it has a lot of space. There's a lot of air, so there's not a lot of contact. So I'm just gonna do that so you can see. This is the silver and this is the stainless steel, but you can see that either way, they're pretty close in the sense of they're small little, what are they called, pearls or whatever. Not pearls, it's not a pearl chain, but you know, they're the things that, you know, like in knitting, the little round things.
Yes.
Okay, so that's so I would look at something like that, and I know that something of this nature does exist in hardware stores.
Yeah,
and not just jewelry, because if you go to a jewelry store, you're just going to pay like 3 times as much, basically, or even more. Whereas you go to a hardware store, you know, and you know, you buy them by the yard or whatever, they'll cut it for you whatever size you want, you know, stuff like that. And yeah, if it doesn't have diodes, that's okay.
Yeah, I did try a local hardware store here, and they didn't have anything in stainless steel.
Well, okay, what did they have?
They weren't quite sure, I think, what kind of materials, like some kind of metal, you know, but Yeah, they didn't. They said it was definitely not stainless steel anyway.
Well, here's what okay, so you could try the jewelry store just for the sake of it, but I would suggest something else. Amazon.
Mm, okay.
So for example, this chain, so let's see, I would say it's about a foot, it's about 18 inches long.
Okay, and that has diodes, does it?
This one has diodes.
Yeah.
But it does, but all I'm saying is that, this is, I mean, just think of something that will fit around your neck.
Okay.
And, since, you're just getting a chain, so you're talking about a really minimal amount of money, probably, you can just get a number of different sizes, in case, like, because if you're wrapping something,
Yeah.
it's just easier. Now, when you're doing it on the body, when you're wrapping a joint, yes, then it will make a difference if you have the diodes on or not. It will make some difference. It will still work without, just wrapping a joint with the chain, connecting the 3 bypass cord, putting aluminum foil over it and sparking it. It is better if you have diodes on the chain. It amplifies it. But for this treatment, you can, so for example, if you have like little bracelets, that are flexible and that you can fold and put in, and there some sort of metal. The only thing is, I think it's probably good to use the same metal on both ears. In other words, don't use gold in one and silver on the other, or stainless steel and copper or something like that. I don't think it's a big deal as to, because copper most metals conduct.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a problem. I would assume that copper is relatively expensive. So it may not be really what you want to buy. But, anything that's metallic, that's going to conduct, that's all you're looking for.
Okay.
And if it doesn't, the diode's supposed to amplify it a little bit, but not a big deal. And I can also, I don't know what the specifications of these diodes are, but there are some other people in Japan who use diodes by taping them on the skin. They're not kawaii people. And I do have the specifications of those diodes. Okay. And they seem to work to some extent. And then you can either, when you put, whoops, we have a lot of noise. So when you, when you put something either on the skin, or you can actually tape a diode on also to kind of try and amplify it, even though it's not the diode by Kawaii. So there's, some of these things I haven't had to try because I haven't been forced into that, because I have the equipment. But you just have to use your imagination a little bit. What is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. So.
Okay, no, because I did read your handouts on where you do those treatments online on YouTube.
Yeah.
Handouts, but I thought I had read that stainless steel or silver, so were preferable.
Those are the two that are supposed to be preferable. Well, okay, so that with I would say this: you want to use what I would call a white type metal rather than a yellow type metal, because the yellow metals are, generally speaking, more tonifying. Gold is tonifying, for example, and silver is more reducing. So you want, remember that the purpose of this is to pull out inflammation. Yeah. So if you're using something that's tonifying, you're kind of countering just a little bit the action. So, so ideally the brown yellow metals tend to be more tonifying, and the white, the silver styles tend to be more reducing. And I think that's why. But like I said, Kawaii very clearly preferred stainless steel, and Kiko, on the other hand, preferred silver. Okay, so so that the actual material is, and before the diode chains came along, we used to use just chains, without anything. So I can say that the chain treatments do work with just a chain without extra stuff. you know, and the extra stuff is better for certain things. You know, when you're taping it on the skin and putting aluminum foil on, yes, it is somewhat better. But you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So, okay. Yeah, and then the other thing is, so for those people, so if you can do that treatment, that's great. And then, because also some of these people can't handle it. Sometimes they'll have very tight top of SEM, and also T4, T5 may be very weird.
Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you.
No problem.
So yeah, I might experiment the chain on myself first to see.
It's quite, it's strong.
Yeah.
It's definitely a strong treatment. You know, that one, and there's another treatment I do for people with sinus, you know, with sinus infections that nothing else has worked. So I put a diode ring on each side of the nose, and with do 20, and I connect the red and the green to the diode ring that's taped here on large intestine 20, and I spark do 20. That's pretty strong too. That's a fairly strong feeling. Most other sparking, you know, even if it's on needles, is not fabulous, but much more, you know, these two definitely, you know, people say it kind of feels inside,
Yeah.
you know, like your brain's been rattled. Yeah. So, so you may not want to try it on yourself.
Yeah.
It all depends on how curious you are. I will say Kawhi used the Pachi on people. No one said anything. I mean, literally. I mean, it was just shocking. And he did it on me, and I didn't feel anything either. So, and I can't, and he was using my Pachi. You know, it was like, it wasn't like he brought his own instrument, and therefore, you know, I can say, oh, his is, he tuned it in some strange way. He used the same one that I used. So I don't know what it is, you know, like if he was just doing some weird qigong with it or something, but everybody else, no one else that I know of has managed to make it so that there's, you know, so that people don't feel it, but people didn't mind.
Yeah.
So it's really odd.
Yeah.
You know, that how strong it is. But I also know that different Pachis have different sense of stimulation. You know, so David Euler sells one that's black, that's much less, it's not as abrasive, which he says works as well as the old pink ones. I don't know what Andy sells. I think he showed me.
I did, yeah. It's a black one.
Yeah, but it was different. I mean, there was.
I didn't quite like it myself, even though you said when I showed it that you preferred. It has a little kind of turn.
Yes, so you can put the needle in there, so you can spark the needle. It's meant so that you put the needle in between where the spark is, and it has a stopper.
Yeah, I think I was just, when I was using it, I was tending to pull, you know, when I was taking it away. I was tending to pull the, that's what
and
I did.
then the needle comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. So yeah, I think different Pachis have different capacity in terms of like what it feels like. So the one that you have may not be so bad with this treatment. It's hard to know. And this is not one of those like the stronger the better. I mean, all you're trying to do is get something initiated. It's not that big a deal. So so if yours happens to be gentle, then it's good.
Yeah.
You should be happy with that. So.
Great, thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Just somebody else. It's to do with a spinal injury, not to the actual cord or anything, but this person had an accident or a sporting accident. They actually pushed it's nearly like reverse curves on the spine, like the lumbar is outward like
Okay, it's like
now.
they have a kyphosis in the lumbar.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
And it was through injuries, rugby injuries actually, or sporting injuries anyway. So I'm just wondering, is there anything you could do for something like that? With
Uh,
the kids, so
Possibly, but I have a question. What is the front of the thigh looking like, the hip flexors? Because I would assume that that would be related to the hip flexors, that kind of, that's phenomenon. Because, it could be that it's in the spine only, but chances are it's the whole way the pelvis is held.
yeah, so more so. I noticed the ribs on
Oh,
one side kind of stick out. Like one, the lower ribs in the front
uh-huh.
stick out a lot. I think the whole rib cage and spine was distorted some way.
Okay. So do you know how the injury occurred?
I don't know the specifics now, but I know it was kind of like a rugby
Yeah,
thing.
so somebody bumped into him, he fell or whatever. Okay, so
Yeah.
you don't know like which part was hit. Okay. And does he have pain lifting the legs?
No, and I didn't notice anything particular, but I wasn't really watching out, I suppose. I didn't notice anything particular in the hip.
Does he have any pain anywhere?
No, no.
Okay, so he's coming with, for spine cosmetic.
Oh no, no, he's not coming for that at all. Actually, no. It was actually no, it was gout. Um,
Okay.
that he had really, but I just was noticing his spine was.
Okay, got you. So the gout is in the feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, he had it in all the joints as well, or a lot of the joints.
And it's true gout?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because there's also something they call pseudo gout, which is a slightly different. It's a different it's some different chemical that's causing the problem. Okay, so chances are he's a liver category to begin with because of the gout.
Okay.
That there's something going on with the liver, and which might be the explanation for why the ribs are different. The lower ribs are different, but that may not have anything to do with it because he had an injury that could justify the whole thing. But okay, so in terms of that curving of the spine, so gout supposedly is supposed to be liver 5 moxa.
Yeah.
That's supposed to, no, that doesn't mean that it will help the spine. So in terms of helping the spine out, I would try on the front kidney 7, and if you can get to gallbladder 39 from the front, go for gallbladder 39, but if not, do it from the back. I would definitely look at bladder 36 because that curve, that kyphosis in the waistline means that the hamstring is contracted in all likelihood. Oh, by the way, on the front, I would also palpate, see if there's any tension on liver 12 area, stomach 31, and try and release it with either stomach G or stomach 41, okay, and or liver 4. Okay, so if the tension is more around liver 12 area, it's more likely to be liver 4, but if it's more around stomach 31 area, stomach G or stomach 31. Then on the back, so that's, so you got your kidney 7 and your gallbladder 39, plus releasing the inguinal area or the top of the thigh, and not inguinal, the top of the thigh. And then on the back, I would do the sacroiliac ligaments.
Mm-hmm.
I would check UB35, and if it's painful, release it with, say, UB58 all the way up to UB39, like the line on the shin. You'll find something tight. It's just more lateral to the center. So not like UB57, which is in the center, but more lateral. And if you find something tight in the calf, and it can be literally just below the knee, or it can be all the way halfway down the calf. To release UB36, and then needle UB36, so sacroiliac UB36, and also Mushu can help. Side gallbladder 37 can help with that. And also check both gallbladder 26s, and if one's gallbladder 26 is tight, release it first with kidney 7, and then needle gallbladder 26. That's in case that there is a tightness there. And then you can try some skull points. What I do is I take stomach 8 and move it to the back. Pretend that their nose is on the back, and make stomach 8 here. Okay, and look around to see if there's anything that releases something. And possibly large intestine 16 might help.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, oh, and do 2. Do 2 upwards, because that's the point that's generally for to activate the spine. But, you know, so the question really here is it, chances are it's not really, there could be something in the spine by now, but chances are it's a soft tissue injury, that it's the way his musculature is working is holding the spine in this weird curve. Okay. And the answer to the chances of what that would be is it's probably something in the hip flexors or the hamstring. It's the glutes, but it's something to do with how the hips are set with the legs, more than how this actual spine is. You know, I mean, anything's possible, but you know, it's more. I think it's more likely to do with muscular coordination, and therefore it has to do with the legs, the top of the legs, and then how they dictate to the glutes and the psoas, etc., and then how that pulls on the spine and creates, you know, this reverse curve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would look at the top of the legs.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
And then the fact that he has gout everywhere, then that's, by the way, another thing. If he has gout everywhere, it starts to suggest something like quote unquote autoimmune, even though it's diagnosed as gout, and gout is not supposed to be an autoimmune disease. But then try and see what mileage you get out of REN4.
Okay.
You know, in terms of his pain, and that may help the spine as well. And by the way, now that you're on the REN channel, so of course REN12 and REN10 and 13 are good points for spinal issues. So, and
he has had surgery.
What kind?
For heart, for valve malfunction.
Okay, and what's the pace of the heart? I mean, is it slow? Is it rapid or normal?
Slow, yeah.
Feels slow. Okay, so if it feels slow, unfortunately, you can't really do REN4. So what you want to do is, you know, side gallbladder 27 as instead. But then definitely, so you could look into, how old is this person, by the way?
And he's like this injury happened a long time ago. He's in his 60s.
He's in his 60s. Okay. So cardiac and the gout and anything else in the medical history?
No, not anything else much. Yeah.
Okay. I you know, just trying to get it, see if we can get more. So I would look into, if there is some possibility of autoimmune, because some cardiac patients and autoimmune can come together. I would, since you can't do REN4, but what you can do on the back is UB27, which is sacroiliac ligaments, which you're doing anyway for the spine. But on the front, I would look at adding lung 5.
Okay.
Okay, which number 1 is part of autoimmune protocol, lung and kidney.
Yeah.
Doing kidney 7 in lung. And number 2, lung 5, it's the, okay, this is going to sound a little hokey, but you know, that's the so-called explanation. It's the water point of Taiyin, of lung. Okay, lung and bladder are opposite side of the clock. So they have a close relationship, and also they have a close relationship because they're both Tai. Lung is Taiyin, and the bladder channel is Taiyang. Yeah, it's Taiyang. So they have a strong correlationship, and the bladder channel is a water channel. Therefore, lung 5 is a good point that gets to the bladder channel, and the bladder channel has something to do with the spine, with the back. Okay, so there's a possibility that lung 5 will do something for him.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
now, of course, if he has the gout right at lung 5, which is a little bit unlikely because it's not that bony, but it's possible, then you're stuck with not being able to use lung 5. Then
It's
use
more,
maybe
yeah,
lung 8. Sorry?
yeah. It was more in the toes and in the finger joints.
Okay, so yeah. So then I would see if lung 5 helps the fingers. And even further, I would look if lung 5 helps the toes.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a longer distance, and it's not if it goes to the fingers, you're going to go, oh, that's an obvious connection, I can get that. But when lung 5 really reaches the toes, it does something for the toes, and then you're going, okay, that's a systemic sort of situation. And then if you started with lung 5 as the idea for autoimmune, then you're kind of confirming your idea. You're not confirming your diagnosis, but you're confirming that that diagnosis led you to a decent treatment.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Not that I can. Probably had a few more things, but they'll wait for another time, maybe.
Exactly. That's fine. All right. Well, enjoy non-shopping.
Yeah.
And hey, at least people put on Christmas lights and stuff, and it's pretty.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
good. So, all right. Well, have a good holiday season, and I'll be here next Monday, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Great.
All
Okay.
right.
Thank you, Evie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.